Thanks for joining me today, Patrick. I appreciate your time.
I'm glad to be here. It's
Yeah.
very exciting to launch the new year.
Yeah, it's a great way to start, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So my first question for you is, how long have you been with the Destination Medical Center?
I joined Destination Medical Center in September of 2015, so a little bit over 5 years.
Okay. And do you want to give me a brief overview of, some of the projects you've worked on and some of the different things you've overseen during your few years there?
Yeah, I joined Destination Medical Center nearly at the outset of the formal establishment of the organization. However, the DMC concept and the initiative really began even a few years before that. So, but I joined having worked in St. Paul with Saint Paul Riverfront for nearly 20 years, actually more than 20 years before coming here, and came into this role as Director of Economic Development and Placemaking. And that really meant that my role was to help stimulate the economic development work that was to happen, but really position it in the context of how do you build a quality place? How do we build this place that is Destination Medical Center and the future of Rochester?
Okay, great. I mean, now you're Executive Director of the DMC. When do you step into that role if you haven't already?
I did already,
Okay.
just a few days ago formally,
Okay.
but really began a transition with Lisa Clarke in November of this past year. So I start and fresh and ready to go in this
Yeah.
new capacity.
How have the first few days gone?
We've turned the page on 2020, and so we're looking forward. We ended 2020 having spent the last several months really setting the stage for what our next phase of work is going to be. And so we, like everybody else, are looking forward with a great deal of optimism to 2021, both putting adjusting to and responding to the disruption of COVID, but really looking forward to many other opportunities. Largely because we've had a very successful first 5 years, and it affords us the opportunity to think boldly about what the next 5 years might look like.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the first phase of the DMC. What did the successes look like for you guys in those first few years?
Many times we talk about the successes in terms of the capital investment, the new buildings that have been built. But really what we should be talking about is how is the city being transformed? And it's being transformed in the sense that we spent a lot of effort creating an environment where people who are visiting Rochester because of medical conditions have a better experience. Of course, their experience at Mayo Clinic is off the charts, and people rank Mayo Clinic as the #1 healthcare system in the country, and in fact, #1 hospital in the world. And it's really because of the kind of experience they have as patients when they're inside of Mayo. But we really wanted to work on what was the experience they had when they were in the city, beginning with how they arrive and their hotel experience, and also their access to amenities once they're in the community. So we see a large number of new hotels that have been created that really make for a more contemporary experience. But we also created new housing opportunities. So the workforce who was moving here had more housing options, people who wanted to live downtown. And when people are traveling here as patients, when people are moving here and living downtown, that does create a market that affords more restaurants, more retail, a more vibrant street life. And we certainly have seen that occur as well. And so now as we look forward, we know that there's been a disruption with COVID, but we also know that disruption will change over time, and we will respond accordingly. And I think we're going to see a very vibrant restaurant and retail marketplace because we have more people living downtown, because success begets success. And so I think we're going to see an even more vibrant downtown core.
Yeah, I wanted to back up a little and chat about what disruption looked like for you guys. How did that manifest itself?
Like every city, we had fewer people traveling here. We had a downturn in our restaurant and retail economy. So we experienced many of the same things that every city in the country, every city across the globe experienced. Now we have what we did find, and we turned to expert advice to help us understand this. We did find that Rochester has fared better than most communities, that had less of a downturn, had less job loss than many communities. And we're anchored by the #1 healthcare system in the country. And so, and Mayo itself gained even further national prominence during COVID because of their response and their capabilities. And it was a go-to organization. The governor of the state of Minnesota often referenced Mayo Clinic as a go-to organization for him for information and for expertise. And so I think Rochester actually comes out of this and will come out of this stronger than most communities, because we are anchored by such a strong, stable employer that will continue to grow, that grew in national recognition. But fortunately, we also have tools like Destination Medical Center to help with our rebound. And finally, I'll say that our community really rallied together under the leadership of the mayor, partner organizations like the Chamber of Commerce and the Rochester Downtown Alliance, and the city staff. I mean, we really rallied, the Economic Development Organization, READY. We really rallied as a community to put all of our tools on the table to see what we could do individually and collectively to respond to this disruption.
Sure. I'm curious how the disruption has, impacted your future planning now for future phases of your group.
Yeah, I think what it has made us even more keenly aware is how important it is to support local businesses. Local businesses are the lifeblood of any community, and it is what makes a community unique and special. And Rochester is fortunate to have a very strong local business community suffering right now, and we are working to support those local businesses so that they can rebound. And many of them, we're very excited to see them pivot and thinking about new business models, restaurants and retail that are thinking differently about how they reach consumers, what products they offer, how they go about their business. So one, addressing local, supporting local businesses. Secondly, knowing that during a downturn, communities that invest in public infrastructure tend to rebound more quickly than communities who hit the pause button. And so we are continuing to invest in public infrastructure, be it sewers or streets or public spaces in public realm, because again, using this opportunity to invest in public infrastructure is key to success and prosperity. Thirdly, knowing that we want to use creatively, reuse and think about reuse of excess commercial office space. As this shift of work remotely causes businesses to think differently about how they use downtown office buildings, it means we want to get out ahead of the curve. And if hotel occupancy goes down, we want to get out ahead of the curve and think about creatively about how do we reuse spaces. Not finally, but in addition, diversifying the economy. Again, we have a strong anchor with Mayo Clinic, but we also want to diversify the economy and diversify leveraging our connection to the medical industry. And I will end by saying that we recognize that we have an opportunity, Rochester does, Minnesota does, that when people across the country can work anywhere, we have to be positioning Rochester and Minnesota as a go-to place for families and individuals who can choose to continue their job in Silicon Valley or their job in Seattle or their job in Boston, but want a better lifestyle, want a lifestyle that's perhaps less expensive, that have access to better schools, less congestion, access to the outdoors, access to nature. And we have all of that in Rochester. And we think we can make a case to individuals and families across this country that when you have a choice to get out of congestion, get out of a smog-filled city and live more simply, but continue your job, Rochester and other parts of Minnesota can fit that bill.
Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that's something you'll be marketing starting very shortly here as a pandemic lessons.
That's right. That's right.
Great. Well, I'm curious, since I know you're so close to the pulse of development there, what projects do you have your eyes on right now?
Well, we are very excited about the work that we've been doing with Mortenson. Mortenson has been our partner in the early phases of the Discovery Square initiative. And so One Discovery Square, which is really a collaboration between Mayo Clinic, the private sector via Mortenson, University of Minnesota, Rochester, DMC, and the city, it is really the manifestation of this vision that we have to build out an innovation district that taps into Mayo science and Mayo technology, brings private sector partners into place, and so that we can start to stimulate new advancements, commercialization of medical innovation, distribution, marketing, and product development, and all of that. So we're very excited with our relationship with Mortenson. They completed their first building just a year and a half ago. They, in the midst of this pandemic, they broke ground and started on their second building because they are very bullish on the future of Rochester and the future of this initiative. So that's a high priority for us. We also see that there are opportunities with tapping into the riverfront, tapping into our relationship to the Zumbo River as a natural asset, and that there are some development opportunities that are in the very earliest stages of our thinking that would really do a better job of connecting our community to the river and taking advantage of that asset.
Sure. And I know you have experience with that because you served on the Saint Paul Riverfront Council. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Riverfront Corporation. Yeah.
Riverfront Corporation. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be something interesting to watch moving forward. Let's see, and you've kind of alluded to this already, but I wanted to chat a little bit about the DMC's harnessing of both private development funds and public infrastructure funds. So I'm assuming that that's something that you'll continue doing as you move forward through the next few years, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And the vision of the governor at the time and the state legislature was to invest in Rochester through public infrastructure to stimulate private investment. And so we are keenly aware that we have a special resource and a special opportunity here in Rochester. And it is to use public infrastructure dollars to trigger private investment on a 10-to-1 ratio. I mean, our goal is that for every dollar of public infrastructure investment, we see $10 of private investment. One of the things it's worth talking about, Kelly, is that as we advance into this next phase, I think that we're going to have even a greater eye towards equity and inclusion. When we launched this initiative, we were committed to ensuring that women and minority-owned businesses had access to public projects. And that was a good building block for us, and we have met those goals. And in fact, our board asked us, and the city council asked us to double those goals, or in some cases, but expand those goals in terms of WMB, women and minority-owned businesses that are participating in these projects. But we think we can take it even further to ensure that there is greater equity in terms of in terms of opportunity associated with the DMC initiative. We also have goals around sustainability, reducing the carbon footprint of as we grow our community to actually reduce the carbon footprint. We also have a belief that when as we attract new businesses and new outstate investment into Rochester, and we have nearly $1 billion of new investment in the past 5 years, and much of that is capital coming from outside of the city. And so, and that's been a goal and aspiration, but now we need to do a better job of ensuring that the local community has investment opportunities as well. And so those are some of the lessons that we have learned. We've grown the number of housing opportunities in downtown. Now we need to grow the number of affordable and workforce opportunities, because that is a gap in our community, and we can play a role in filling that gap.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, I think that was everything I wanted to ask about. So is there anything else you wanted to add in or mention? I
guess one thing that I will say is that Rochester had a very, very low unemployment rate pre-COVID, as did the state of Minnesota, but Rochester was even lower than the state of Minnesota. And we had a pressing workforce shortage issue. And we believe that this disruption of COVID and the unemployment that's been created because of it is really masking a remaining underlying condition, which is a talent and workforce shortage issue in our community and in Rochester and in Minnesota for that matter. And so our relationship with the University of Minnesota Rochester and other universities in town is extraordinarily important as an effort to both attract young people to the community and to hard link them to to the community and businesses in this community, so that as they are finishing their college career, they have an opportunity and an interest in staying in our community and taking on the growing jobs that are occurring here.
Sure. Great. Well, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. Thanks for the
Yeah, have a good one.
invitation.
Bye.